Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Engineering Success Podcast. This is your host Himanshu, and today I'm thrilled to have Varun, the CTO of FieldAssist, joining us. Varun's journey is a fascinating one, from starting his career in mining engineering to becoming a tech leader, founding a citizen journalism platform, and now leading over 100 engineers at FieldAssist, where they're building AI driven solutions for field sales automation. Let's get started.
Thanks, Himanshu. Thanks for having me on this podcast. So about myself, uh, I think that basically I would say the main story starts from when I graduated from IIT Dhanbad in 2015. So that was the time when I had two options. So I came from a mining engineering background. So uh, in those 4 or 5 years, I could understand that this is not the place that I want to do. So I operate from a perspective that there's so many things in the world to do. So it's very difficult to choose, but yeah, it's very easy to eliminate. So whatever things I have tried, I can eliminate. So mining engineering was something that probably I selected because of, I would say, certain set of counseling that I had during my early years of education. But eventually, when I studied, I understood that this is not my piece of cake and I want to do something different. And I was always fascinated with product, technology, impact. So those were the, I would say, keywords for my, I would say, life or aspiration. So in 2015, I decided to start my own company, and I wanted to build the first product myself. So that was the, I would say, key motivation for me, because I understand I have a feel what kind of product I want to do build, what kind of experience I want to provide to my users, and that was also, I would say, in a way good for me, that I want to first hand experience how to build a product. So that is when I started. I had a couple of my batchmates as my co-founders. Unfortunately, my CTO also, because of some family pressure, he had to leave at that time. And then that is when I took up the full job. So I learned PHP, Java, front end. I worked on a lot of frameworks, bootstrapped. I also built my first mobile application myself. So during a course of, I would say, 8 to 9 months, I developed first version of all these three products and eventually went live. So that was review. That was a citizen journalism platform for people to report news, and we were escalating it to their elected representatives. So the idea was you can review anything from roads to infrastructure to um, I would say your anything of that sort. You can report, and we would escalate it to your elected representatives, your MPs, MLAs, and that is we wanted to be the bridge between common people and elected representatives.
Mhm.
I built that product, and that is why where my engineering journey started. Uh, One of the first recruit that I did during review was a student from IIT Roorkee who hacked into my product, and after a few conversations, he was my, I would say, first team member. So that was also a very interesting journey. And
So he hacked into your product and you reached out to him.
yeah, yeah.
How did it
So,
happen? He hacked and did he reach out to you that he have done this or?
so because obviously coming from IIT, I would say community. So I have a lot of friends in IITs. So those were our first early adopters. So we were spending and doing a lot of marketing in a lot of IITs via friends. So that is when through a network I posted in a lot of communities of IIT Roorkee, and one fine day I would say it was something around 9 or 10 p.m. in the night, and I saw something weird in obviously our product. So someone posted something. Although it was nothing, I would say, but yeah, the person obviously highlighted that he has hacked into my system. Then at that time, I did whatever needed to be done as a quick fix, and then try to explore who is he is. So eventually, I was able to find out who was the person was. Then I messaged him. He was very so because obviously he was a third year college student, so he was very I would say he was very, I would say, afraid that okay, I did not do it anything. I do not know anything. But eventually, I gave him comfort, and he opened up. Yeah, so this was the security hole, and I used it to get into the system. And then we had a discussion in, I would say, coming up consecutive weeks. I asked him to onboard review, and that is when our journey started together. And that person is still working with me in Field Assist. So it has been more than 10 years of journey of us
Wow.
together. So
Quite a story. Yes.
Ayush is one of the senior architect at Field Assist right now. So uh, yeah, so that was a very interesting journey. And obviously, when I get so obviously, I consider myself as a tech and product enthusiast, and obviously a quick learner, what I feel I'm good at, but not a pure, I would say, techie geek. So that is where I have been fortunate, and obviously to work with a lot of people like Ayush, Bharat, and also I have a lot of good team members who are helping, and probably I think we bring complementary skill set to the table. And eventually, I would say I take a lot of role right now at FieldAssist in problem solving, approaching to problem, taking a lot of decisions, and then these people provide a lot of key inputs. So that is how my journey started. Then after review, the business model was a challenge. Otherwise, I think we had a great success in terms of concept and early success in terms of resolving a lot of issues. Then after 2.5 years, I exited review and I started joined FieldAssist. So at that time, I wanted to. So Devar was a college senior. He was the founder of FieldAssist, and after I joined Devar, so I was working with. So I started with tech. So I wanted, because this is something that I have started, so I want to continue in tech. And soon we were also starting a new product. So the CTO of FieldAssist at that time, Apoor Gupta, he was starting another product, and that is when I joined him. And we created another product, Workozy. So it was a feet on street uh, product for all kind of a mobile first product for all kind of people who are doing feet on street work, and it was a horizontal product. So Field Assist is a vertical product because it caters to a specific industry. Workforce was a horizontal product. And we had a great success in a couple of years. We were able to get to a revenue of 250K. We were doing good, and that is when COVID hit. But during this small time, Ayush also joined, Bharat also. So we had a very small team, a very small, I would say, highly capable engineering team. I would say we were 7, 8 people, and we were working as a pure startup. We also got into YC uh, till interview stage twice, but because of the scale of the product, we could not go through. But yeah, we had a, I would say, very good journey so far. But after COVID hit, and obviously there were a lot of, I would say, sudden uncertainties into our life, into our, I would say, vision as well. And that is when we decided it probably because FieldAssist was also operating in a similar space to a vertical stage, I would say, sales, optimizing sales efficiency for a specific industry. And we were working with a lot of people of different industries. But eventually, we could understand that it could be a small subset of FieldAssist universe. And that is where we can create a lot of value for us, for product, for our customers. And then that is how FieldAssist internally acquired Workozy. And that is into December, January 2021. January 21, that is where my journey as a CTO of FieldAssist started. So that was, I would say, a pivotal moment because until then I was always working with 7, 8, a team of 7, 8 people. So working with a very close-knit team is very different ballgame. Obviously, you have very high-skilled people, very closely knit, a very close culture. So a lot of things becomes easy. And now I was leading a team of 30 engineers. And obviously, at a time when people were resigning, you were having offers declined. People were asking for, I would say, absurd appraisals and absurd raises. So it was very difficult for me because I was in that shoes. And candidly, FieldAssist tech stack or complete tech was not in a very good, relatively not in a very good shape at that time. But yeah, it was a great learning experience. So I had to improvise a lot. We first of all, from a very big monolith structure of, because we were working in a sprint of 30 people. So that is when we took small steps, took decisions to go from a monolith structure to microservice structure, created a pods, so different pods who were taking care of different microservices. So we did that, and eventually we set up a dedicated QA team. But until that, we did not had a dedicated QA team. So we had a team of small people, but it was not very efficient. So that was also one complete structure that I had to create. So fast forward 3 years, now we are a team of 110 people, 70 engineers, 25 QA people. In fact, tech support also is part of my function now. We have done, I would say, a lot of things. We have built 3 products, architected and built 3 products from scratch in last 4 years with, I would say, supersonic speed. that is in their market right now, used by thousands of users. Complete field assist stack right now operates at 1.25 lakh daily active users doing their billing, ordering, inventory, discipline, performance, everything being monitored on a daily basis. We have I would say ISO 27001 SOC 2 great security with a real-time security systems on also inbuilt. So we have grown a lot, and because the idea was that FieldAssist was also entering into a space where we were acquiring a lot of enterprise customers.
Yeah.
From a, I would say, small startup or I would say small company to going onto a stage and creating that stack where we are confidently able to sell to those customers and deliver on that. So that was the key challenge. And obviously scaling those 30 people, creating a tech org design, because until that it was not required. You are 7, 8 people, you do not need a org design. But
Yeah.
when you go to 100 people, you need to create an org design, who will take care of what. You cannot have, say, so because there was a time they were almost 40 people reporting directly to me. Uh, and so because obviously you can take one problem at a time. So when we were very focused on solving technical problems, so this was completely left out. In I would say past 12 months, we have been able to create a very robust 5 tier org design in Field Assist that now take care of complete this 110 people team. So yeah, this has been the journey so far.
Quite
Absolutely.
a journey. uh, Varun, okay, first question. When did I think it used to be ISM, right? And then it became IIT. So did it happen while you were still in college or it happened way before that?
Uh, so it happened when I was in college, and you asked it, but I was the one who was leading that movement when it happened. So
Okay.
last 2 years of my college, I was majorly in Delhi or Ranchi meeting Hemant. So I met Hemant Soren, I would say 4 or 5 times. I met Rahul Gandhi, Amit Shah, Smriti Irani. So I led a movement of, along with the whole team, led a movement of IIT to ISM to IT campaign. We took 1,200 people from Dhanbad, students from Dhanbad to Jantar Mantar and did a 3 day strike there. So
Okay.
so those were things that we did, and eventually I remember it was somewhere around 2014. I met Smriti Irani, and that is when she committed to us that there was code of conduct going on because there was Jharkhand election, but she told me that now we have taken decision and eventually come out. So that was, I would say, one of the key moment, and I would say that was also a pivotal moment for me in my career because that was something that we worked very, very hard for. And obviously, carrying aspiration of, say, 10,000 people on your shoulders, because people were wanting to have that. And that is, we were able to deliver it. And that is where my interest into politics came into picture, that I want to do something in politics and create some impact. And obviously, the medium was always product and tech because I always think like that. In fact, today
Mhm.
also, if you ask me, I feel now that AI is growing so fast. We have so many products. Startup ecosystem is growing so fast, and if you see the current political landscape, you would hardly see people who understand technology, who understand AI, who understand Web3, who understand crypto. So
Mhm. Yeah.
definitely, these are very big space right now. I do not know what is the solver of that and how it will solve, but eventually, definitely, it will get solved because you cannot have, say, country like India, who is one of the leaders in tech space, running without technology leaders in political structure.
Yeah.
So whenever it happens, it happens. But I would want to be a part of it in some way. Right now, I see everything that we do as a, I would say, preparation to be, I would say, good in your space,
Mhm.
be at the edge of the, say, technology, understand how products are built, how technology is built, how system at scale works. So that in, I would say, any day when you get a chance to probably contribute in some way, you can. So that is how I look at it in a very broader perspective. But I was very surprised that you asked this question because I thought that probably I will cover it, but I thought that okay, it's a college thing, so let's skip that.
It's a very new perspective for me as well. How do you marry politics with technology? In your experience of leading that movement in the college, how did that experience help you at work, or how does it helps you today at FieldAssist?
Right. So before that, I also want to just share as I would say interesting story from that perspective. So Dever, who is the CEO and co-founder of FieldAssist, he graduated in 2000 from IIT Dhanbad, and he started that journey. And then he left college and he started Flick to Know Technologies, and then eventually it evolved into FieldAssist. And when I graduated from ISM in 2015, I was the one who ended it. And now we both are together in FieldAssist and now working on a different product. So it was quite, I would say, coincidence that he started it, he ended it, and now that we are together and we are building another product and taking it to our journey so far. Coming back to your question, how it helped me. So the one philosophy that I shared, so that is also something that I have learned during that time, that there's obviously there's a choice paradox. So there are so many things to do. And in fact, in tech world also, if you want to build a new product, you have so many frameworks. If you want to start with front end, you have Vue, you have Nux, you have Next, you have React, you have Bootstrap, you have so many frameworks, Tailwind. So what to use, what not to use, right? And it comes in every aspect of your life. So when so just a quick story, when I started leading that movement, everybody was chasing state government and to eventually get it to happen. And when I discussed with the internal team, so I want that we have two options. One is obviously a state government, one is center. Who to chase? Because we do not have energy resources to chase both the things. So let's start with state. Either it happens or either it gets eliminated. So for next 2 months, we met Governor of Rajasthan, Governor of Jharkhand, CM of Jharkhand, BJP President, JMM President, everyone, whoever would be possible to say help us out in any way. And after 2 months of, I would say, pure effort, we understood that this is not the place where we can get it happen. And that is how we eliminated that. And now we have to focus on center. So I would say that is the one core philosophy that I developed and that I now very strongly believe. That was also, I resonate this also along with, I would say, first principles philosophy of what Elon Musk preaches a lot. Because obviously there is no other way to figure out. So you have to start from basics and then eventually take your steps forward. So that is one area that helps me a lot. And I, no matter what decision I'm taking at what level, I always operated this framework. Second is one, I would say, a very impactful thing that happened to me was chase the impact. So that is something that I operate now. So target a problem that is big enough that creates a lot of impact for a lot of people. All other results, whether it is, I would say, designation, fame, money, or any other influence that you are chasing, will follow. So that is how I operate. So is the problem good enough? Is it affecting a lot of people? If those two, three checkbox are there, I'm okay to go. Because all other things are obviously part of the process. And then obviously you get a lot of confidence when you do something that you do not have clue about and you started with zero and then you slowly built up the ladder, you slowly built up the team. So I would say that was my first entrepreneurial journey because that was also a very small startup with a very specific I would say
Goal.
in mind, and we
Yes.
were able to achieve it. And it was a very turbulent journey. In last few years of my college, people were, uh, in fact, in my Viva, people were asking me not about questions. The professor was asking about कि इसका क्या चल रहा है, what is happening about the movement. So because that was the impact of the problem statement I was working upon, everybody was concerned whether it is happening or not. What happened when you last visited Delhi? So those kind of things were happening. So yeah, so overall, I think these two things, two, three, I would say core philosophy that I was able to develop and I still date I follow them. Uh, and obviously this perspective of, I would say, mixing politics or impact with technology also came from there because that was interest area I did not know I had, but eventually it developed and it married to the existing, I would say, passion about technology and product.
You spoke about that at one point. Initially, you started with 7, 8 engineers, and you scaled, and that at a point you realized that you don't have a dedicated QA team, and you shifted to, or you took the conscious decision of getting a team for it. What were those instances or trigger moments where you realized that, okay, now is the time for us to switch to a dedicated QA team? Prior to that, what was the practice internally? How was quality being taken care of.
Sure, sure. So I'll very candidly share the how the structure was, how the structure is today, and specifically from a point of view that it will help a lot of people who were in our stage and probably who are aspiring to get into our stage that we are today. So typically how the structure was, there were 30 odd people completely in engineering team. They were specifically, I think, two, three QAs. They were generally taking care of production bugs. So any production bugs that comes into our system, they were assigned to those QA people, and eventually they would get take it to do some RCA, and then take it to developers and get it resolved. So what was the problem? So one I said was a very big problem, that because we were operating in a sprint agile methodology from sprint structures in 2015. Now in 2020, when we were still doing that, but we did not create a lot of structures around it. So we were obviously 30 people. So whenever you're doing grooming, there are so many people doing attending calls, and it is not useful. So the structures was not prepared as it is, and it was very difficult. So we have three major big repositories that we had, core repositories, and we were not able to delegate into say different structures who would be responsible for it. So what we essentially did was, what we realized is, first of all, it is very difficult to work with so many people at once, wherein there are 4 5 leads, and then there is always, I would say, it is very difficult to create consensus among 4 5 people also how to go about it. And that is where we decided we wanted to, we did sort of in a very short span of time with interaction with people, we did some skill mapping, who is good at what, say, in terms of maybe DevOps, in terms of structures, in terms of database, in terms of front end, in terms of backend. And then we tried to create a microservice structure, but that too hybrid, not a pure microservice structure that we talk about, because obviously monolith also had its own advantages. So we thought that, okay, we need to implement microservices structure, but not in a form that obviously it is free, because that is too theoretical for us to implement. And I think that is also a call that many people different. In my experience, I have talked to a lot of, I would say, CTOs and technology leaders, that they find it difficult to take. And then we divided, and then we created a pod. So a pod would contain 2 product people, 2 QA people, and 4 to 8 developers, and maximum size would be 8. We do not go beyond 8, because we find that if there are more than 8 developers in a specific team, it would be very difficult for them to function no matter what they are doing. And eventually it will decrease the velocity of their work as well.
Can you dive further into this?
Yeah. So what happens is, because typically, specifically, my product counterpart and a lot of people, they eventually always complain about bandwidth, that we need more bandwidth. Okay, so this is our quarter roadmap, give us more developers, and we want this much of points or velocity in our sprints. But what we essentially discovered was, whenever we were adding more people, and specifically, I would say 6 is the sweet spot for us in our experience. And whenever we have gone to 8 or beyond in any product, what happened was, scrums were taking too much time. PR people were were not of say optimum quality, or there was say, for example, leads were getting too busy in, say, handling PRs and all other work, or maybe doing so many one-to-ones with a lot of other people in getting their work done. So they were not able to give a lot of time to the project. And when senior member say involvement in the project purely in terms of actual, I would say, architectural reviews, coding, or getting best practices is limited. Eventually, we were missing deadlines. Sprint delays were there were too many sprint delays. I would say scalability of features were also going for a toss. Grooming, because I think it was taking a good amount of mental toll on people from a, I would say, lead perspective. So they were not doing justice to grooming. Eventually, right questions were not being asked. So they were adding a lot of problems. So we understood that, okay, because obviously we have those tech leaders and we essentially operate like that. So we do not want typical managers. We want techno leaders, right? So they do not enjoy a lot of, I would say, bureaucratic stuff. And if you create, I would say, go beyond a certain number, it gets to that point that the line between tech and bureaucracy goes to the, I would say, right side. And that is where we decided, okay, we want to operate in this fashion, that we do not go beyond 6. In fact, when we start any new project, so we have, say, for example, created a distributor management system. I would say in our category, it's the most modern, and what I feel is most robust. And we started that project with 3 people. And for next, I would say 4 or 5 months, we were operating with 5 people. That included one product guy and four, I would say, tech people. So we brought best of the lot and we gave them complete space and operated like a startup. And we delivered in a, I would say, record time. So instead of actually having, and that is where I feel waterfall approaches works best. So whenever you are starting a new project, it does not make sense that you start with agile. So agile in its own concept is good, but it is always good when you have, I would say, good set of running customers that are actively using your product, and then you go into agile. But for what has worked so far for us is for first 6, 8, 12 months, it could be different for different type of companies. You should always follow a waterfall approach. Pick out your best people, best product people, best tech people, and then give them a space to build the product, and do not have a QA team, because that is also what we learned, that initially everybody need to do the testing, because then it gives them a lot of perspective about what we are building, how we are building, whether it is good or not, and that product knowledge needs to be there. And I think typically after 6, 7 months, you get a time that you create a QA team, because work of QA and the speed of development is, I would say, inversely proportional. So if your speed is too high, it's very difficult to have a QA structure in your process. So recently, that for example, we started onboarding a lot of enterprise customers. So we had a lot of talks with them. Uh, so it was initially very difficult for us because the speed of development was very high. And then generally how it happens when speed of development is high, developer and product people create a small pod within themselves, and then they work. It could be night outs, it could be, so how they want to work about it. So it's very difficult to have a third person in place and you always inform them about all the decisions you're taking in real time. So typically, any new project starts with a waterfall approach, goes with a very small team, and then it evolves into a structure wherein you go into agile. Then that is where QA comes into picture, because there you want some sort of stability, some sort of reliability, in a way that you do not want to release every day. You do not want to create a lot of, I would say, ad hoc. You do not take a lot of ad hoc requests when the product is matured. So our DMS team that we started with 3 people, right now it's, I would say, one of the biggest, I would say, pod in our team, although it has different pods, but I think 20 odd people are there in that pod with 5 QAs. So it has transitioned from that to this level, and it is operating very smoothly. So we started international. So when we started Africa, so same thing happened when we started Southeast Asia. So until we reach product market fit and our first customer goes live and we have set of people who are already working, so we always operate on waterfall. We also give opportunity to our leaders, to tech leaders, to go to, say, so I visited Philippines myself. Our team visited Africa, Southeast Asia, just to have a perspective how the end user would be using the product. Because we also feel that eventually it is very important to you, for you to understand, because if it comes from a, I would say, third person perspective, say for example, product is giving that perspective to you, it is good. But once the person feels it, the kind of product he builds is very different. So that is I think very important. Uh, so now, what good thing that I have done in, I would say, current field assist structure, and that I feel should be done at a lot of people, and it naturally evolved into that org design was, we have 5 level hierarchy. So L1, L2, L3, L4, L5. So SD, senior SSD, tech lead, architect, delivery manager, senior delivery manager. So on the upwards, what we have done, we have segregated into 2 categories. So one is pure engineering, I would say, category, wherein people are more focused on product roadmap, more focused on scalability, more focused on DevOps, more focused on open source implementations. So how we are optimizing our cloud costs, how we are resolving our tech debts, how we are doing new POCs, implementing new structures. So this is a very short team and doing about that. Then we have a second team who is taking care of solutions implementation, because now that you're implementing solutions with enterprise customers, you have a very strong delivery targets. So these people have a different set of team, different talk that is more focused on delivery. Because what we understood was, it was very difficult to have same person wear these two hats or sit on those two chairs. And eventually it automatically segregated. So there were few tech people who are very passionate about engineering and they do not understand even sprint also. They understand, okay, I want to do this new POC. I want to solve this. They're very passionate if they solve something technically. If they solve, I would say, a scalability problem or a deployment problem. So we understood that we need to cater and those two aspirations are different and eventually lower hierarchy also we have same type of people. People who are doing development but they aspire to be sort of go into a delivery management or solution implementation role and then people who go on to a pure architect role. So these two hierarchies are different and now we have a very segregated clear structures with different KRAs for those people, different performance management or what we call within field assist for them. So that is something that has evolved and I would say not the very well oiled machine, but going into at that direction and probably I think say 6 months down the line we have a good oiled machine that is operating on its own. And then obviously you have to give some flavors of innovation, certain new things to the team, say once in a while, every quarter, every 6 months, so that they do not feel monotonous about their work. So yeah, that element definitely needs to be there.
So I think we did speak about it earlier on our conversations that you guys decided to implement visibility. Let me try to frame this better. At what point in your journey you felt that you need to solve for visibility or you need a tool that can help you with this?
Right. So as I said, so I would say it was almost a year and a half when we got to a stage of 70 odd people. That is where that is the time when I said that I was almost close to 40 people were directly reporting to me because we were so involved in solving a lot of other tech related, I would say, aspects of the function to solve that. We did not focus a lot of on this, I would say, people part, especially in terms of org design. And that is when we consciously structured the let's solve this problem. And then we created certain set of hierarchies. So we created a structure L1, L2, L3, L4, L5, this structure that we created. And eventually it took people a good amount of time to, I would say, absorb it. So obviously, because you were working in a very different structure, people had a habit of obviously reaching out to say me any moment of time. So availability was too high. So you had to create a very conscious delegation. So it took 6-8 months of time to create a structure. Let make people feel that you are responsible. So it when you go to a big company, it becomes very obvious that this he is responsible for this and it operates like this. But when you are transitioning from a, I would say, startup to a company, it becomes very difficult because now that you are implementing this structure and it is not as easy as it sounds that हाँ आप ऐसे कर दोगे तो ऐसा हो जाएगा. So it took time people to absorb, change their behavior, and eventually I would say 6 to 8 months time people start responding to it. And one of the surprising thing that I realized was a lot of people where I felt were very high in potential, especially in senior position, but not operating at that level. As soon as I implemented the structure, it became, I would say, they became, I would just rocket and they were performing like anything. So that was a big surprise for me that a lot of, I would say, I received a lot of good response from my team, especially senior people, and the type of the way they took accountability, responsibility was amazing. Now that we had in place, I say, for example, coming from an entrepreneurial mindset and probably someone who sees a challenge that you can solve it in any way, you can do it, or probably you can have 3 more people in your team. But now that you have a structure in place, a lot of people are responsible for other people. They need to do reviews, performance management. You need to have a framework in place. You cannot have that without it, right? So that is when we created the complete framework, Briddhi framework for our field assist team. And as soon as we did it, having the reviews on time. So obviously a lot of things were subjective. So people were disputing. So when we were having performance reviews, people were disputing with, no, I did this. So tracking of incidents. So we understood that there are say 10 KPIs where we have to be very objective. Because right now we do not have a tool, it becomes very difficult and those reviews do not, I would say, bring out the best of the people. People do not get in alignment, this was right, this was wrong. And when I say that, obviously it's 20-25% of problem, but that 25% matters. Because okay, people can agree on 80%, but those 20% is the key where they'll also grow. So that was the problem that we were facing. And eventually I was also facing in terms of visibility, because now that I have a very big team, it becomes difficult to say how my L1, L2 is performing, whether a person who is at L1 is getting to L2, say in next 2 years of time or not, whether he's in that trajectory or not. So there are a lot of decisions that you need to take. And that is where we started, I would say, and obviously at my chair, I received so many, I would say, emails around products. Uh, so that is when we decided to do the, I would say, POC. So we first started a POC with a tool called Havel. So we were doing POC with it, and then Dev Dynamics also came along in a different way. So we were discussing about podcast, but then I looked up your profile, and then I
Yeah.
know about Dev Dynamics, and uh, then I asked one of my I would senior leader to just do a POC along with Dev Dynamics, and then surprisingly, when I recently had a look at the dashboard and complete I would say visibility, and I was very surprised. Okay, I could envisage how many of my problems it would solve. So because and eventually at a, I would say, leadership level, we have a functional reviews as well. So there we want to have a 35,000 feet view, not a say 5,000 feet view. So we want to look at the forest, not the trees. So obviously this gives also a perspective. They will say, I would say, aspect of reporting that gave a forest view as well. Because eventually what I want was, how can I increase the velocity or not? है ना? How stable are my products in so when I frame these questions in a, so typically it looks very subjective, but you have to have from a objective base, you need to get to those answers. So what I could understand was a tool like Dev Dynamics, and specifically because I think what I like best about Dev Dynamics was the plethora of integration that they provide out of box. Because obviously in any technology team that would be there, and at a stage that we are in, they would be using 10 to 12 tools easily, and
Yeah.
it would be very difficult if visibility is there, but only from a say single or say two tool perspective. You need to have a holistic visibility. So that is where I think, and that is where I think I 2-3 days back I had a very good realization, and I could have a vision in mind that probably what I can do with this. And when you have a say, you can create a value in your mind about any tool. It could be external, it could be internal. Then rest of the journey becomes easy, because then
Yeah.
obviously you just need to navigate how you are getting to that value. But now that you have it, key, once I implement this, I can maybe with current team, I can increase my productivity by 10%. I can increase my skill percentage of my people and monitor it efficiently. So I can create a better experience for my people, more objective experience for my people, for my team. So yeah. So that is where the problem came in, and that is how we are going towards the solution. But yeah, I think it happened
Yeah.
by, but I am happy it happened.
Yeah. Varun, so quite a journey, after every question, after every response, I am left with more surprise, more awe because of the journey that you took, starting from being in the mines to being from mining to coding, and then you leading engineering. Then you starting with 7 people, then you thinking about that, okay, we need a QA process. Of course, I mean, starting with the levels, the hierarchies first, and then you created pods, and then now solving for visibility. So I see a very organic journey, like very organic rise, uh like organic shift happening in your whole journey as an engineering leader. Now we like in your case we had that, I won't say luxury, but still you had time, like you were taking, I mean, things happened at its own time. And now this is, I mean, this is open for a much larger discussion. This is a very broad thing, but these days, the companies which are thriving on velocity, but those velocities are very unprecedented. You haven't heard of something like this before. And this whole notion of fail fast has really come up in the whole startup environment.
Right.
How do you look at this narrative? How do you look at failing fast as a philosophy?
In our case, so in case if you ask me, although I relate and I believe in certain aspects of it, but I do not. think and probably how it is preached or marketed, this philosophy, I do not completely align with that because I have seen founders and I have seen startups following it to the T and then eventually not giving enough effort in your say first initiative just because you are okay that okay nahi hua to fail ho jayega and then we'll move to another. It is okay to fail fast, but you should always be prepared to not fail. And if it happens, it happens. That is okay. And then you get a learning and then you move forward. Because that is how you can, so, but because eventually you have to optimize and limit the number of failures. That is,
Mhm.
should always be your goal. So, for example, when we created Five, so as I said, FieldAssist Innovation Labs, and we created FieldAssist AI initiatives and products, we failed the first time. And we, in a way, you can say we wasted 6 months or 6 to 8 months. But obviously, those were a lot of learnings. And when we did it second time, it clicked and we worked. And in any of the projects that we have worked so far, so they were products that clicked on the first. Say, for example, DMS, we got it right in the first, I would say, time. There were projects like Fi that failed, and then there were other projects, say a retailer app. There were other projects that we got it right in say multiple attempts. But eventually, idea was never to fail. Obviously, it is okay. So I can absorb if I fail. So idea is you should be able to absorb it and okay if you fail. But idea should never be that let's go, I would say, unprepared or less prepared, and it is okay to fail. Because that is where my disconnect with the whole philosophy is. So you should always go in the say obviously if you are playing a game, you I take a lot of sports analogy because I'm a good sports fan. Uh, that you should always go in the field trying to win. And if
Mhm.
it does not happen, obviously reflect why you failed and probably do what needs to be done. But you cannot go with the mindset that is not something that I believe in. Matlab, it's not just for enjoyment. Eventually, you know you have to get it right.
Yeah. This reminds me of this thing that my CEO often, like at Dev Dynamics Prithvi, like we always get into this discussion. When I was doing my startup, we had we were shipping left, right, and center. I mean, if on Google Play Store somebody writes a review that we need this, tomorrow morning we will ship it. We were working like that. So we were not thinking, like we just took things as and when they came, only to realize much later that okay, this is not sustainable. Like for the company, for the product, and for you as well. Like there's only to a certain extent that you can process information. If you just keep on adding it without processing it, it'll become difficult. Uh, so I was like, I was one of those people that I believed in executing fast. Okay, if something has come up, let's not debate too much. I'll just go and try it. If it fails, then I'll come back. Okay, this doesn't work. But my CEO, he would like before anything he gives to me or before anything that we're working on, he would make sure or he would like incessantly ask me that, just spend some time, just think about it. Just take 3 days, 4 days, how much ever you want, but just plan it. For me, this was very new. I was coming from a very high velocity, high risk, high failure environment. And here, velocity is important, it's equally important, but you don't have to fail. You have to as you said, you have to optimize for not failing. So I can totally relate with the fact that I think the marketing of the whole fail fast mantra has not happened the right way. But, super insight, Varun. You said you are a sports, you are into sports. So
Right.
what's more to your life beyond politics and field assist?
So I play badminton almost 1 to 1.5 hour a day, depending upon how the schedule allows it. But definitely an hour a day, definitely. I have a TT table at home, so
You got
I
a TD table at home.
uh,
Wow.
and eventually I would want to have a lot of a very big dedicated space for sports. So eventually, because what I feel about sports is obviously for me it is also sort of a meditative thing that among all the chaos of feature bugs, scaling, not scaling, all other aspects of tech. This gives me a meditative space of an hour wherein I'm not thinking about anything and just in the moment trying to play. So that is one. I think sports also makes you a lot humble. So no matter what you think about yourself, if you are playing anything, you will lose. And that gives you a very significant perspective that no matter who you are in life, you will have to come across failures, and you would have no other choice but to accept it and probably gracefully and probably move forward. And I would say one more mantra that sports have given me is, because when I play sports in singles or doubles, whenever I play badminton, there have been cases where, say, for example, I'm uh, love to 10 or love to 15 down, and eventually we have won those games. And so the type of kick you get when you are able to achieve this. So apart from obviously in the moment, it also gives me a sort of a psychological message ki if you do the right things, the probability of success could be low, but it's not zero. It's not over until it's over. Those kind of philosophies. So eventually, being okay to be, there are certain moments that you could be down, you could be cornered, but you have to think in a certain way. And if you are able to execute certain steps successfully, you can come back.
Yeah.
So it has teaches those philosophy to me to the very core, and I follow them, and that is why I love the sports, and I preach everyone, in specifically at leadership position. I want people to play sports because what I feel is nobody can teach you those things other than sports.
Yes. Very true. It's only in those moments that you would forget, you know, that exposure to humility, that exposure to losing, all of those things will come to you. Otherwise, in our day-to-day life, you start feeling invincible. So
Correct.
I
Correct.
remember like earlier when we used to push features, okay, not at Dev Dynamics, here things are taken care of very carefully. But earlier at my startup earlier, in the very early days, so I remember in that week, we shipped about 7 features in 5 days, and with no roadmap, nothing. Like, you know, whatever came up, that okay, we need a like button, okay, implement a like button. We need a bookmark, we did this. Okay, we need this. What we need, Gantt charts, okay, we will do charts. We implemented 5 features, and towards the end of the week, we felt like superhumans. You see, we implemented 5 features. You look at these big companies, they take so much time, and we did it in 5 days, only to realize later that okay, you don't have to just.
But I think it's good that, as you said, that you have a very strong action bias, and there is someone who is always holding you back, because I think these are two very good complementary skills for a, I would say, or a recipe for a good team. Because
Yeah,
obviously there are a lot of places or times that you require action bias, because it is
yeah,
very difficult to think. You cannot operate on thinking at that time, and you have to operate on action bias, and then there are places where you need to hold back. So I think it's a very good recipe and good team, and I think I'm also fortunate to have, so for example, Nikhil from my product team. He comes from a blend of mind that he is very fast, and I think at times I hold him back, and probably at times we also play the opposite roles. But eventually, I think that is a very good, I would say, recipe, because in our case we have done so. Version of our analytics app that we launched in something around 2018. We built one version of it in one night.
wow.
So we built the complete application in one night and shipped it next day. So we have operated in those levels, and it has worked for us. Obviously, not scalable, but yeah, it
Yeah.
has its own. And
Yeah.
then we have a good structure as well.
Yeah. In fact, like I'm getting a very good vibe out of the whole field assist team. I had a chance to meet Param back in March, and we have been in conversations almost every alternative week, or at least once a month. Like we would get on a call for about 30-40 minutes talking about everything. And I've seen that spiritual meditative element in him. The way he talks, the way he spoke about field assist, his own journey has been remarkable.
Right.
And even you, a non computer science engineer to a CTO, it's quite a journey. This always fascinates me because I, for me, journey has been, if not very similar, but on the same lines, that I hold a formal degree in psychology. I'm back into tech again. I feel the path to going forward in any field is incomplete without tech. And that's where, when you said that you want to look at the political and policies angle of tech, is where I relate on a much deeper level. That I think without tech, you can't scale like anything.
Right.
If you want to do faster and better, you just can't do it without without taking the help of all the available technologies around you.
Right,
Uh,
and with the AI revolution coming up, it is becoming inevitable. So you are going into a world where everything is, so you are going into a world where bureaucracy would be AI bureaucracy, right?
yeah,
So that is will be the, I think, probably the one of the first element that could get maybe eliminated in a way that it is happening right now, or because it's bureaucracy is nothing but a process, and
yeah,
if it is a process, you can automate it and probably, you know. So if that is going in that direction, obviously you need to have a very good perspective around tech, how things are happening. Otherwise, well, I honestly, I feel, I wonder a lot. Otherwise, what will happen? Although I feel there are a lot of people, say, for example, if I am thinking like that, there could be thousands of people who would be thinking like that, and a lot of people will step up, contribute in some way, the community will contribute, and eventually we'll get to that level. I was always fond of writing, but I would say I was a bit lazy on it. But say, for example, GPT has helped me a lot because I get a lot of time where I feel that I had this thought and I would want to put it out to the world. Just because I was lazy, I was not putting it out. But now it is helping me.
it is just convenience at another scale. What it can I remember this thing at one point in my life I experimented with Amazon Alexa. So we were building a startup and constantly taking follow-ups from team that hey, please do this, are you doing this, used to be one of my things. So what I did was I asked Alexa that every half an hour ask him, are you doing this? So it's Alexa was kept in that room with like eight people working on their own stuff, and at a random time or whatever I feed it, Alexa would ask, "Hey Ayush, are you doing this?" And then
Hmm.
If Ayush was even lost, he just comes back to it and is focused on its work. So it's just your ability to use those tools can
Correct.
take you. I mean, it can take you really far, and it can do wonders to you. So Varun, I think I did not even realize like the time because the conversation is so interesting and I badly want to do it more, but we'll probably wind it up here. But I think I will travel. I have plans of traveling to Delhi very soon, and I would want to like meet you in person and have a much more detailed
Definitely.
conversation around this. Uh, so Varun, any last message or any learning that you can share to people who are watching this? As I've already said, the whole focus of this podcast has been to able to help first time leaders or new leaders help them manage their engineering better. So anything that you can share as an advice to them.
So first of all, thank you, Himanshu, for this opportunity, and I think I also loved it a lot. Uh, I was obviously, as I said, skeptical in a way that how it would it go, and probably because obviously with so much work, I did not had a lot of time to give a lot of thought to it. But yeah, I think I'm glad it went well, and it was very interesting for me as well, and definitely will catch up. For leaders, uh, I would say one thing is very important is uh, tackle the problem at hand. So for a leader, because as in my journey also, it has been very difficult that there will a lot of people who would give you a lot of advices around you, and it would be your people who are working with you in your team. There are people who are at your peer level, people outside. But it is very difficult to be detached to an outcome that is far in future and be very focused on the problem that you want to solve today, and solve it in a step by step fashion. Be open to improvisation. So for example, in our case, when we were not having a good QA hiring, we went to Intanshala. We gave a lot of opportunity to people who were restarting their career in QA, and it clicked, and it gave us a significant attrition. So our tech attrition at Feeless is right now 2%. So just to give a perspective, uh, so be open to improvisation. That is something that I very strongly, because there would be places that typical tried methods would not work, and you would be out of ways, and that is where I feel sort of improvisation or action bias comes into place, and try to figure out an out of box approach that will help you a lot. And third is, I think there's always a time for certain things. So, for example, as I said, start with how it has worked for us. Start with an waterfall. Then there would be some structuring. Then there would be an addition of a QA. Then there would be an agile framework. Then eventually, once you have set up everything, then there would be a very significant amount of DevOps or deployment related things that you need to do. Then you will get into an enterprise journey. Then you have a security layer that needs to be focused a lot. And then eventually, you have to have a complete org design. That is how the journey will flow from a small space to the, I would say, a space where you are serving a big enterprise customer and a very big team. So you have to operate in this fashion only. Do not try to do fourth step when you are a step one. Otherwise, you can do it. There is no harm in it, but eventually, obviously, it will be coming at a cost of something that needs to be done today. So I would say that would be my advice. And obviously, in current context, it would be very important to embrace AI. AI in ways of working. Right now at FieldAssist, we are also, apart from the products that we are building, we are also trying to embrace AI in our ways of working. We are still at nascent stage of it, but right now in today's context, it is very important learning. Obviously, I think sometime in future we would want to share our learnings to the world, but do that. This, I think, once in a while talk to people, content on internet, articles of leaders who have been there through helps a lot. So you may not get an opportunity to directly interact with people all the time, but obviously, I would say internet is a very good teacher. With GPT, it's even more convenient. Try to read out more how people solved it, what can be done in this regard, and eventually you will get ideas. So yeah, I think these would be summed up advice. And eventually, as you grow big, I think one more good consideration is go more open source, because purely from a tech perspective, it helps a lot. It helps you reduce your cost. It helps you evolve more as a tech organization. Uh, and obviously, once you do get to at that level, you also come on a place where, for example, right now, we have started contributing to open source projects. So that will keep your team, I would say, give up greater purpose, specifically the people who are geeks, because eventually people who are into delivery may have different aspects of, I would say, milestone that they'll get. But specifically, your very good engineering folks, they would need those kind of motivation, and you can provide to them. So yeah, these are the, I would say, thoughts or learnings that we had, and I would want to share. Hope it helps anyone, and even if it helps a single person, it would be, I would say, give us value.
This conversation has been super insightful, very valuable. And I do hope that we get in touch again and we, talk about more things in the future.
Definitely.
But for now, thank you so much, Varun. Thank you so much for joining. And to everybody who's been watching us, I'll leave the links to Varun's LinkedIn, how you can get in touch with him. It will be there in the description.
Thanks for being with us. Stay tuned for more.